Hi, my name is Karen Quirós, and I am lucky enough to be the science resource teacher for the Chula Vista Elementary School District located at the Living Coast Discovery Center. The Living Coast is a small environmental education center located in South Bay, San Diego. We have snakes, we have lizards, we have sharks, we have eagles, we have jellies, we have sea turtles, we have more. And I really miss having my students visit here, but I'm so excited to be able to bring this experience to you today. Today's experience is titled Sensational Slithering Snakes, and you are going to become a special kind of scientist with me today called a herpetologist. Herpetologists study reptiles and amphibians, and today we're going to be focusing on snakes. How do you feel about snakes? Do you have a favorite snake? If you do, please put your responses into the question and answer box. Mr. Bruder, Mr. Garcia, and Ms. Hughes are helping me out today, and they're going to be answering questions throughout the section, and so am I. We also have a really fun KAHOOT quiz planned for the end of this section. So please stay tuned because we're going to find out how much you learn at the end. So we are going to be a herpetologist today, and that means we're going to have two main objectives. Our first one is that we're going to describe the main characteristics of reptiles, and we're going to focus on snake characteristics too. Then we're going to be able to identify some really sensational traits that help snakes to survive. And I have some scaly friends here from the Living Coast to help us learn. If you've been able to watch some of our previous events, you'll know that I've been teaching all about animals. We've learned that there are two main groups, invertebrates and vertebrates. We were able to explore a squid to learn about the invertebrates that don't have a spine, and we were able to look at birds and fish, which are vertebrates and do have a spine. Today, we're going to be focusing on reptiles. And there are so many reptiles that we're going to actually have two live events about them. Today, we're going to focus on snakes, and in my next live event, we're going to be focusing on other reptiles like lizards and tortoises. By the end of those events, you are going to be expert herpetologists. So there are many different types of reptiles. Reptiles have been on Earth for over 315 million years, and there are over 10,000 different kinds. These are organized into four main groups: turtles and tortoises, crocodiles and alligators, snakes and lizards, and tuataras. You probably are pretty familiar with most of these types of reptiles, but maybe not the tuataras. These are part of an amazing group of reptiles that are pretty ancient, and there's only one type left found on the islands off of New Zealand. They have 2 rows of teeth in their upper jaw. They can be active during freezing temperatures. They have spines down their back. They can live to be over 100 years old, and they have a third eye. Pretty amazing reptiles, definitely. Now, what makes a reptile a reptile? Well, since we are focusing on snakes today, I have one of our scaly friends, one of our most famous scaly friends from the Living Coast, to help us learn what makes a reptile today. And this is Mr. Rosie. Hi, Bo. So Mr. Rosie is a rosy boa constrictor, and he has been at the Living Coast Discovery Center longer than I have. And I have been at the Living Coast for over 16 years. So he is about 20 years old, and rosy boas can actually live up to 30 years. So he's still quite young. Now, Mr. Rosie has a very amazing body here that he's slithering around on. And normally rosy boas are very calm snakes, and they can be found right here in San Diego. Now, if they feel threatened, rosy boas can actually roll themselves up into a ball, and they will hide their head right in the middle to protect themselves. Their predators are mostly like hawks and other birds of prey, and they eat mice or rats, and they might even eat like small birds, amphibians, and even other snakes. Now that we've learned a little bit about Mr. Rosy, let's go ahead and focus on reptile characteristics. So we're learning about vertebrates, and vertebrates means that they have a spine. Now, a lot of people think that snakes don't have bones, and I can definitely see why, because as I'm touching Mr. Rosy, he does feel quite soft. However, inside there is definitely a skeleton. But what I'm feeling is this kind of soft muscle that's all around his body. It's kind of like our soft muscle, right? When we don't tense it, it's pretty squishy. So inside though, there is this very long skeleton. Do you see all those bumps down the back of the spine? Those are vertebrae. So those are going to be the spine or backbone of the snake. If you bend forward, you can actually feel your bumps down your back as well. Those are your vertebrae. We have 33 of them. Snakes actually have usually over 200 vertebrae down their back. Those other bones coming off of the vertebrae are actually kind of like our ribs, and they're there to protect his heart and lungs, kind of like ours do. Now, they also are going to kind of give them shape, like their body structure. So some other reptile characteristics is that they breathe air like us. So they have lungs that they need to protect to be able to take the oxygen out of the air. They also have a heart that's like ours as well, to move the blood around our body. It's just that they have three parts to their heart, and we have 4. Another sensational characteristic of reptiles is that they lay eggs, most of them. Boas, like Mr. Rosy, are one of the only type of reptiles that actually have live birth. Pythons do as well, but pretty much all other reptiles have their babies in hard-shelled eggs. Now, another thing that you've probably heard about reptiles is that they are cold-blooded. This is also called being ectothermic. And that means that they cannot make their own body temperature regulate. They have to use their environment to help them. So if Mr. Rosy is too cold, he's gonna slither over to the sun to warm up. And if he's too hot, he's gonna find a shady place as well. If it gets too cold for him, he actually will go into a state that's kind of like hibernating. It's called brumation. And brumation is when they go into their burrows, they become pretty inactive, and they don't eat or drink very much. But however, they can wake up sometimes, go out, have a snack, move around a little bit, and then go back into their burrows to brumate some more until it becomes warm enough for them to regularly be out. Finally, they are covered in scaly skin, or there are some reptiles that are in bony plates. You can see Mr. Rosy has these very nice scales all over his body to help protect him. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you to Mr. Rosy for now and put him back so that I can talk a little bit more about the skin of reptiles. Thanks, Mr. Rosy. So can you feel your skin? It's pretty soft, right? And if I pinch my skin, it stretches. Now, as we eat food and we exercise and we learn and we sleep, our bodies grow and we get bigger. However, snake skin does not stretch. It has these hard plates that cover it and make them protected in their habitat. So if you look on this side, you'll see there are many round scales covering the back of the snake. This side is the belly of the snake. And you'll notice that these scales are kind of like stripes, and they're very thick. These are called scoops, and that's going to allow them to slither along the ground and not scratch themselves up. Now, as a snake eats and grows bigger, their skin does not stretch. So they have to go through a process called shedding. So when they get too tight, they'll start to kind of rub up against some rocks or some sand or bushes and start peeling off their skin right at their mouth, and it will slither all the way out of their head, from their head all the way out of their body down to their tail. And their skin actually comes off inside out. Pretty amazing, right? Now, they have new skin underneath, which is shiny and can protect them some more. So now that we've learned about reptiles, I think it's probably a good time for me to check in with Mr. Bruder and see what kind of responses you put into the question and answer. I'd love to hear some of your favorite types of snakes and how you feel. Mr. Bruder, can you help me? And
Sure.
let me know some of their answers.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Q.
Good afternoon.
We have herpetologists here.
How exciting.
Yeah, we had different ones that were shared. This was shared, like pythons, Roxanne shared, cobras. We also had students sharing coral snakes, all kinds of different.
Ooh, I'm excited about the person who said coral snakes because we're actually going to learn a little bit about them later. Do we have any people, how do they feel about snakes?
You know what, I'm glad that you mentioned that. We do have some people that aren't so sure what to do when they encounter a snake on a trail. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, I would love to, definitely. So thank you for your responses. I'm excited that you know about all these different kinds of snakes. There are over 3,000 different kinds of snakes, and only 200 of them are actually harmful to people. There are only 3 venomous snakes in San Diego, and none of these venomous snakes eat people. So the only time that people get hurt by a snake would be if they are trying to scare them or maybe hurt them and the snake defends themselves. So if you can leave the snake alone and respect it in its habitat, more than likely it will leave you alone. And this actually goes for all wildlife, really. If you leave them alone and respect them in their habitat, they should have no reason to harm you. I do understand that some people feel scared about snakes. That's a pretty normal feeling for a lot of people. However, after learning about the snakes today and knowing that there's really only 3 venomous snakes, but if you leave them alone, they won't hurt you, and getting to meet some of our animal ambassadors, I hope that you can find out that snakes are really pretty sensational. So thanks, Mr. Bruder, for giving me those responses. I'm excited to check in with you again later. All right, so now that we've learned about reptiles, let's go ahead and focus on snakes. So snakes, remember, have some scales all over their body, and this includes their eyes. So they don't have eyelids like we do that can blink, and it always kind of looks like they're awake. They also don't have any ears either, but they can feel vibrations that sounds make. So they can sense what animals are nearby, how big they are, and where they are. They also can sense with their tongue. You probably saw Mr. Rosie sticking his tongue in and out, and that is him actually sensing what's going on around him. This is because they have a special organ inside the roof of their mouth, and I have a video to show you a short clip that explains this really well. Let's go ahead and check it out.
It's some time. Why do snakes have forked tongue? Just for fashion. No. Even though snakes have noses, they smell odors of their prey, mate, or surroundings with the help of their tongue and vomeronasal organ. Each time a snake flicks its tongue in air, it collects odor particles. Then, when the tongue is brought back, the particles are transferred to the vomeronasal organ. This organ detects the odors and sends signals to the brain, helping the snake smell.
Wow, that's interesting.
Now, we know that when we see with our two separate eyes, our brain combines the two different perspectives and makes a detailed image of our surrounding. Similarly, because the tongue of a snake is forked, it collects odor particles from two different locations, helping the snake understand in which direction the odor is coming from, and thus making it easier to locate the prey.
Pretty sensational, I think, that snakes can actually use their tongue to sense animals around them, even if they can't see them. Pretty sensational. Another snake characteristic is that they don't have any legs or arms. They have long bodies. Can you imagine having to slither around without any, or move around without any legs or arms? Pretty good thing that they have those thick scales on their belly and strong muscles and bones to help them slither. Their muscles and bones actually help them to catch and eat their food too. So they only have their mouth and their body. So if they're going to eat an animal like a mouse, they don't want their faces all scratched up or bitten. So they have to make sure that the animal is not moving before they swallow them. And this means that they are going to have two ways to make the animal not move. So there are a type of snakes called constrictors that will squeeze the animal and then it won't move anymore before they eat it. There are also venomous snakes that use venom to stop the movement. Once the movement is stopped, they can open their mouth super wide. How wide can you open your mouth? I can open mine about this wide. Snakes can actually open their mouth 3 times bigger than their head. How amazing is that? I happen to have a jaw here of a snake. And you can see that normally the jaw works kind of like ours to open and close. However, there are ligaments that are very stretchy that hold the two top and bottom jaws together. And so when they're going to eat a prey, they can open their jaw super wide because they have an extra bone. And then they stretch those ligaments and then they can open their mouth and their body even 3 times bigger than their head. Pretty sensational, right? That's how they could eat that huge egg in the picture before. Now, we've learned a lot about reptiles and snakes, and I have 2 more scaly friends here to share with you. However, before I do, I want to go ahead and ask you a question. Now that we've learned some pretty sensational characteristics about snakes and reptiles, are there some that you wish you had? Go ahead and put that into the question and answer section. You tell me what sensational characteristics you wish you could have. All right, so we've been talking about scales, right? And how they cover the body of an animal to protect them as they're slithering around in their habitat. I happen to have a beautiful snake here who has some amazing body coloring. So this is Leche. And Leche has this beautiful coloring. She is a milk snake, which is a type of king snake. And she has been at the Living Coast for about 4 years. She's about 6 years old. And you can notice she has this really bright red, black, and yellow coloring. These are types of snakes that can definitely be local to San Diego. You might find them around here. And they might live up to 10 to 12 years old. And some have been known to even live longer than 20 years old. So they will eat mice or rats, and they'll also be able to eat lizards or small birds. What's so amazing about king snakes is that, because she's a type of king snake, is a milk snake, is that they can actually eat other snakes, and not just any other snakes. She can actually eat venomous snakes like a rattlesnake, which is pretty amazing because she can tolerate the venom. Now, she also has thick scales covering her body to protect her physically, and we've already talked about that. But I want to talk about this beautiful coloring that she has also, and this is going to help to protect her as well. And that's what I want to focus on with Leche. So we think about coloring of an animal as helping them to camouflage or hide, right? But with these black, red, and yellow stripes, she is not hiding. She's actually trying to stand out. She's actually trying to look like a different kind of snake. So she is a king snake and is non-venomous, but she's trying to look like a coral snake, which is a venomous snake. So as a king snake, she would not necessarily hurt potential predators, but because they think she's a coral snake, they stay away. So her colors actually protect her. Now, this is kind of tricky to humans too. So we've actually have a saying that helps us remember. And that saying is, red on black is a friend of Jack, but red on yellow kills a fellow. So if you notice with Leche, you'll see the red and black stripes are touching. On a coral snake, the red and yellow stripes are touching. So that helps us to figure out which type of snake they are, venomous or, like Leche, non-venomous. Thank you, Leche, for helping us to learn how important coloring is to a snake. All right, so this is called Batesian mimicry, and snakes are not the only animal who use it. There are actually other animals that use this type of mimicry as well, such as butterflies, and there are some hawks and tortoises as well that use that kind of mimicry. Pretty amazing that they can copy another animal. Okay, now that we've learned how important coloring is to an animal, what happens if there is an animal that has a coloring that's a little bit different than normal, or a lot different actually in this case? So this snake that I'm going to bring out is Marceline, and she is a banded California king snake. However, she is an albino. So she has been at the Living Coast for just over 1 year, and she is about 8 years old. Isn't she beautiful? So she is an albino snake, and she's a partial albino, actually. She looks white and yellow. However, a king snake's normal color is black and yellow. So Marceline was actually born without the code to be able to make color. So she doesn't have the ability to make black, and her yellow is much lighter than a normal king snake's color. What makes her a partial albino is that her eyes are not red. If she had red eyes, then she would be a full albino. But for her, she's partial because her eyes are kind of grayish. For full albinos, we can see their eyes as red because they can't make color in their eyes either. And so we can actually see the blood vessels in their eyes, which make them look red. So since her color isn't so normal, what do you think? Would she be able to survive out in the wild? Remember, normal banded king snakes are black and yellow, and they help them to camouflage in the bushes and in the shadows of their habitat. So probably not, right? She would not be able to survive very well out in the wild because she wouldn't be able to sneak up on her prey or hide from her predators. So luckily for her, people think albino snakes are super cool. So she's been very well taken care of by her caretakers. So thank you, Marceline, for helping us learn just how important color is. It might help them to camouflage, or it might help them to look like a different kind of animal. All right. So we have done it. We have been able to be herpetologists today, and we have been able to see some different characteristics of reptiles and snakes, see that there are 4 main types of reptiles, and we've also seen some pretty sensational characteristics of snakes that help them to survive. And now it's time for us to learn how much you have learned. So I'm going to ask for your responses from Mr. Bruder in just a moment. But while we're discussing, I would like you to join our Kahoot. Do not close this screen. What I want you to do is open a second screen, a second window, and you're going to go ahead and go to www.kahoot.it, and you're going to type in this game code right here. As I'm getting this ready for us, I'm going to go ahead and ask Mr. Bruder for some of your desires of sensational snake characteristics. So Mr. Bruder, can you share some of their favorite characteristics of snakes?
Yeah, there's definitely some characteristics that they're interested in. One of them, Michael from 5th grade mentioned wish he could sense other animals.
I love that they can sense other animals with that sensation. They could also have those amazing senses of smelling, right? And being able to smell with their tongue. They would definitely be able to figure out what's going on around her, right?
Yeah, we also had, as Zoe shared, the ability to have venom.
Ooh, you would be dangerous for sure.
Christy from our Olympic View friends soaring in second mentioned being able to shed their skin.
Oh, how cool would that be if we got new skin every time we kind of felt like we needed some? Every time you had a birthday, you could say, ready for me to shed my skin.
Cameron shared that wish could have scales, so when you fall down, it'd be harder to get scratched.
Ooh, I like that. They are very good at protecting from scratches. Think about how many bushes these snakes have to slither through.
Sophia also mentioned being able to sense things with the forked tongue that you shared with us.
Yeah, it would be neat. It's kind of like our nose with cookies when they're baking, right? So you kind of smell a really yummy smell and you kind of follow your nose to find where those cookies are. Kind of works a little bit more similar, but snakes can smell a lot better than our nose for sure.
Thanks. Now I'm craving cookies.
We're almost done. You can almost get some cookies.
Speaking of that, Eric and a few other of our friends mentioned the ability to open your jaw wider to eat other things.
Oh, yes. Wouldn't it be great to just be able to, I mean, I like to eat and I love to be able to taste all those flavors, but sometimes you kind of want to just eat and run. So how amazing would it be to be able to just open your jaw, eat your whole dinner, and be done and get back to playing?
Roxanne also mentioned the ability to kind of move and slither around.
Yes, I think it might be kind of hard at first, but I think you could probably get the hang of it. The snakes are sure really good at it.
It looks like our Kahoot game's still growing. Is it okay if we ask you a couple questions about snakes?
Sure, I'll try and give you some good answers.
We had someone who was wondering, do snakes lose their teeth, kind of like we do?
Ooh, that is a good question. I actually don't know if they lose their teeth. I would think yes, at least once, just because they're so important to them. I know sharks, remember we talked about sharks losing their teeth last time, and they have no arms or legs to be able to cut up their meal, right? So they have to lose their teeth quite often, so they replace them. But I actually don't know, but I would assume at least once, yes. Good question. I'm gonna look it up now.
Logan was also wondering if a snake's hibernating gets too hot, does it move?
Right, so reptiles like snakes actually go into something called brumation, and they can wake up during it. We usually think of hibernation where animals go to sleep for the whole winter. But for snakes, if they do kind of wake up because it's too hot or because they want or get hungry, they can actually wake up for a bit, come out, get their needs met, and then be going back into their burrow until it's warm enough for them to be out much longer.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that with us. We have a handful of questions that I'd love to share, but it looks like we have quite a few friends in the Kahoot, so I think it might be time to get started.
All righty, let's do it. I'm excited. Thank you so much for joining, friends. Remember, you can join throughout if you want to, for sure, so keep logging in. Here we go. First question for sensational slithering snakes in 3, 2, 1. A person who studies reptiles and amphibians is called a red triangle engineer, blue diamond herpetologist, yellow circle ornithologist, or green square ichthyologist. A person who studies reptiles and amphibians is called an engineer is red triangle, a herpetologist is blue diamond, a yellow circle is ornithologist, a green square is an ichthyologist. So which one do you think is a person who studies reptiles and amphibians? We learned that you became this type of scientist today. Get your answers in, only about 5 seconds left. All right, and dun, da, 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 yay! Well done, friends. Awesome, awesome, absolutely. You are all herpetologists today. Fantastic. So, oh my goodness, agile gazelle, helpful squid, power impala, rational hare, and mountain owl. Well done. You were quick on that answering. Let's see who gets the next one. Here we go. Do snakes have a backbone or a spine? If you think yes, you're going to put red triangle. If you think no, answer blue with a diamond. So do snakes have a backbone or a spine? Remember, you felt yours. Do snakes have one? Answer red for yes or blue for no. Do snakes have a backbone or a spine? Also called vertebrae. Red for yes, red triangle for yes, and blue diamond for no. And this is actually a picture of a normal colored king snake. So you can see those black and yellow stripes is what Marceline is not able to make. Woohoo! They do. They have a spine inside of them. They seem really squishy and soft, but that's just their muscle surrounding their spine. Oh my goodness. What do we have here? Glad koala is in the running. Captain Wildcat, Wonder Dove, Happy Alpaca, and Amazon Lark. Well done. Here we go. Question number 3. Reptiles are cold-blooded. What does this mean? Red, their blood is cold. Blue, they only live in cold places. Yellow, they use the environment to control their body temperature. Or green square, they eat cold things. This one's a little challenging. Reptiles are cold-blooded. What does this mean? Red triangle, their blood is cold. Blue diamond, they only live in cold places. Yellow circle, they use the environment to control their body temperature. Or green square, they eat cold things. What do you think cold-blooded means? What do these animals have to do? Red triangle, their blood is cold. Blue diamond, they only live in cold places. Get it in. Ah, woohoo! I knew I was going to get some of you with that cold blood because it kind of says it, right, in the word, but it's actually that they have to use their environment, right, to warm up in the sun and the shade to keep cool. Well done. Ooh, let's see who's in the running now. Glad Koala, well done. Stuck that lead. Fast Mouse and Captain Wildcat still in there. Prairie Octopus and Aquatic Cheetah. Well done, friends. You're doing well. Keep at it. Here we go. Number 4. Snakes can smell or sense with their red triangle tail, blue diamond ears, yellow circle tongue, green square scales. Snakes can smell or sense with their red triangle tail, blue diamond ears, yellow circle tongue, or green square scales. What do you think snakes sense with or smell with? Is it their red triangle tail, blue diamond ears, yellow circle tongue, or green square scales? 5 seconds left. Get those answers in. Who got it? Woohoo! Yes, their tongue, definitely. You saw all 3 snakes probably putting their tongue in and out to sense what's going on around them. Well done. Oh, Glad Koala is still in the lead, and Captain Wildcat as well. Prairie Octopus, well done. And Flying Cheetah and Aquatic Cheetah still hanging in there too. Well done, friends. All right, last question. Here we go. And nice job, Epic Turtle. You just jumped 43 places up. The coloring of an animal helps them to red triangle, let animals know they are dangerous. Blue diamond, copy or mimic a dangerous animal. Yellow circle, hide or camouflage. Or green square, all of the above. What do you think? The coloring of an animal. Remember, we had Leche and we had Marceline teach us about the colors of animals. So the coloring of an animal helps them to red triangle, let animals know they are dangerous. Blue diamond, copy or mimic a dangerous animal. Yellow circle, hide or camouflage. Or green square, all of the above. Get your answers in. What does the coloring of an animal help them do? And 2, 1. You've got it. All of the above. You actually all got that question right because any of those answers were correct. But let's see who was patient and actually went for that green square. It's hard to do in a Kahoot game, right? Is be patient. So in 3rd place, Captain Wildcat, you hung in there. Well done. And 2nd place, Prairie Octopus. Well done. And with 4,272 points, Glad Koala, you are a serious herpetologist. Well done, super. I think it's Panda, and 5th place as well. Well done, friends. I am super impressed. You did awesome with that. So let's go ahead, and if you are interested in learning more about our amazing animals at the Living Coast Discovery Center, I have a playlist for you. We have a playlist called Creature Close-Ups with Mrs. Q on our innovation website or our innovation channel on YouTube. So you can go on to both of those links that are going into the chat right now and subscribe to our innovation YouTube channel. And all of our previous live events are recorded on there, so you can go ahead and view them at any time you want. We have a lot of other resources on there as well. And not next Friday, but the Friday after that, when we come back from spring break on Friday, April 9th at 1 o'clock, our own Mr. Garcia is going to do an awesome live event called Building an Airplane. So make sure you don't miss it. Thanks so much for viewing today. I had a lot of fun learning about reptiles and snakes with you. Bye.